Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Aganda Timarandasya Ganajana Shivakaya Chakshur Umulitam Yena Tajma Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. The following video series is a summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam was translated into English by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Also included are His in-depth commentaries known as purports. These purports unpack the often complex and symbolic language of the text, making it understandable to a wider audience. The Srimad Bhagavatam, also known as the Bhagavata Purana, is considered the most important of sacred scriptures. Composed around 5,000 years ago, it is considered the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature and the original commentary on the Vedanta-sutra. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam is Srila Vyasadeva. He is also the compiler of the Vedas, classified as a Purana, a vast genre of ancient stories and knowledge encompassing history, philosophy, and spiritual teachings. Srimad Bhagavatam includes stories of avatars, creation narratives, lives of saints and sages, philosophy discourses, and practical guidance for spiritual life. Divided into 12 cantos with over 18,000 verses covering 10 subject matters. 1. The elemental creation. 2. The secondary creation. 3. The planetary systems. 4. Protection by the Lord. 5. The creative impetus. 6. Manvatars. 7. The science of God. 8. The dissolution. 9. Liberation. And 10. The supreme shelter. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 25, text 143 and 144, Lord Chaitanya, speaking to Prakrisananda Saraswati, tells him, translation, the meaning of the Vedanta-sutra is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. The full purport of the Mahabharata is also there. The commentary of the Brahma Gayatri is also there and fully expanded with all Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Supreme Purana. It was compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His incarnation as Vyasadeva. There are 12 cantos, 335 chapters, and 18,000 verses. Canto 3, chapters 9 through 16. Chapter 9, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. Brahma glorified the Lord as the only noble object, the supreme form, who possesses no superior aspect. I surrender to you, said Brahma, as you are untouched by matter and are the protector. Even if one takes shelter of the Lord to satisfy his material desires, said Lord Brahma, that is far superior than attempting to satisfy the demigods for material gain. Brahma then expressed his desire to create the material world and be unaffected materially by that work of creation. Brahma requested the Lord's direction on proceeding to create the universe and became silent. The Lord saw that Brahma was anxious about constructing the universe, and He mercifully removed Brahma's anxiety by informing him that which Brahma was requesting had already been granted. The Lord then said that He would fulfill the desires of anyone who worships and prays to Him, as Brahma did, as it is He who is the only proper object of attachment. The Lord then disappeared. A verse from chapter 9 is text 33. Yada rahitam atmanam bhutendriya guna sayahi sarupena mayopenam pasam sarvajam richati. Translation. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from the influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. Chapter 10, Divisions of Creation. Vidura asked how Brahma created the bodies of the living entities, and Maitreya described how Brahma, after the departure of the Lord, sat on the lotus and performed devotional penances for 100 celestial years. Brahma thereafter drank the water and wind, which made his lotus tremble. He thus could see that the lotus on which he sat was spread throughout the universe. He entered the lotus and created the 14 planetary systems for the inhabitation of different varieties of living entities. Maitreya then explained the 9 divisions of creation occurring due to time. 1. Mahatattva. 2. False ego. 3. Sense perceptions. 4. Knowledge and working capacity. 5. Controlling deities. These are the natural creations of the Lord's external energy. The remaining 4 creations are by Brahma. 6 is avidya, or an ignorance. 7. The immovable entities. 8. The lower species of life. And 9. Human beings. The 10th creation is the demigods. After describing the creations, Maitreya offered to describe the descendants of Manu. A verse from chapter 10, text 8. Padma kosam tadavisha bhagavat karma chodita ekam vyabanskid urudha trida bhavyam trisaptada. Translation. Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the world of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds, and later into 14 divisions. Chapter 11, Calculation of Time from the Atom. Before beginning to describe the descendants of Manu, Maitreya continues his description of time by defining it so that it can be measured within space. He does this by describing the paramanu, the atom, and describes time's basic unit as the amount of time that it takes for one atom to combine into 6. Maitreya, building from that basic unit, describes time units comparable to seconds, hours, weeks, months, and years, and as time units that measure the orbits of the planets. Vidura then requests Maitreya to describe the duration of life of the residents of higher planets who are beyond the range of destruction at the end of Brahma's day. Maitreya describes the length of time of yugas, the days and nights of Brahma's lifespan, partial destruction at the end of Brahma's day, and greater destruction at the end of Brahma's life. A verse from chapter 11, text 34. Yadhardam ayusastasya paradam abhidiyate purva parado pakrato yaparo parvartate. Translation. 100 years of Brahma's life are divided into 2 parts, the first half and the second half. The first half of the duration of Brahma's life is already over, and the second half is now current. Chapter 12, Creation of the Kumaras and Others. After describing the potency of the Lord's form, as Maitreya continues to describe the future creations of Lord Brahma, Brahma first created the nascent engagements and then the 4 Kumaras who refused to create further. Brahma in anger created the destructive force, the Rudras, who he placed in meditation until they were needed at the time of the destruction of the universe. Brahma then manifested from his own body 10 sages, then religion, irreligion, lust, and desire. The sage Kardama was manifest from the shadow of Brahma. Brahma next manifests from his 4 mouths the 4 Vedas and the paraphernalia for sacrifice, the principles of religiosity, and the 4 ashrams. Vidura asked how and with whose help Brahma established the Vedic knowledge, and Maitreya described how all Vedic sciences and activities became systematically manifest one after another. A verse from chapter 12 is text 4. Sanakam cha sanandam cha sanatanam atamabu sanat kumaram cha muni nishkriyam urva retasa. Translation. In the beginning, Brahma created 4 great sages named Sanaka, Sandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upwards. Chapter 13, the appearance of Lord Varaha. Brahma appreciates Manu's submissive mood and requests Manu to generate population, rule the world, and perform Vedic sacrifices, all for the Lord's pleasure. Manu then requested a place to perform his service, and he informed Brahma of the earth's being submerged within the depths of the ocean. As Brahma contemplated how to rectify the situation, a tiny creature, a boar, appeared from his nostril. The boar grew, and Brahma wondered if he were Vishnu. Roaring, the boar entered the water and lifted the earth upon his tusk and killed the demon Hiranyaksha. The sages offered prayers to Varaha, the Lord Boar's incarnation, understanding him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the worshipable object within sacrifices. Maitreya Muni described how the Lord placed the earth upon the water and returned to his abode. He then glorified the auspicious narration of the pastimes of Varahadev, and he described the auspicious results of hearing the nectar of the Lord's pastimes. A verse from chapter 13 is text 4. Sutasya pusam suchirasram masya navanasha suribir ititorata tatadgunanusaranam mukunda padaravinam hridaya suhisam. Translation. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouths of pure devotees about the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, who awards his devotees liberation. Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the evening. Sukadeva Goswami narrated Vidura's inquiry about the cause of the fight between the Lord and Hiranyaksha. He then narrated Maitreya's reply, which Maitreya had heard from Brahma. Once Diti, the daughter of Dask and wife of Kashyapa Muni, approached her husband at dusk, an improper time, with her desire for children. Kashyapa tried to dissuade her by glorifying the position of a wife, but he at last succumbed. After the act was performed, at its inappropriate time, Diti approached her husband in fear that Shiva, due to her offense, would destroy the embryos within her womb. Kashyapa condemned the inauspiciousness of the act and predicted that her contemptuous children would be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hearing this, Diti was satisfied. Kashyapa then blessed her, due to her faith, that her grandson would be the great devotee Prahlad, who would see the Lord both within and without. Diti was thus pleased. A verse from chapter 14 is text 19. Yam ahur atmano yardam shreyas kamasya manini yasyam svaduram ajasya pumam starita vijvara. Translation. O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God. Diti kept the embryos within her womb for 100 years, but due to the power of the embryos, the universe became dark. Seeing this, the demigods fearfully approached Brahma, prayed to him, and requested that he explain the cause of the universal darkness. Brahma related how the four Kumaras, once after traveling throughout the universe, desired to visit Vaikuntha. The four Kumaras passed the first 6 gates of Vaikuntha, but were stopped by the 2 gatekeepers at the 7th gate, the gate before Lord Narayan's palace. The Kumaras, the oldest of sages, although looking like young boys, were furious with the discordant mentality of the gatekeepers and cursed them to fall to the material world. The gatekeepers fell down at the Brahmins' feet, accepting the curse, but expressing their fear for forgetting the Lord. At that moment, the beautiful, all-auspicious Lord appeared, fully decorated and accompanied by the goddess of fortune. The sages saw him, whom they had always meditated within their hearts, manifest before their eyes. They then smelled the fragrance of the tulsi leaves carried from the Lord's lotus feet by a breeze. The Kumaras' minds were disturbed, and they gave up their Brahman realization, understanding that the realization of the personality of Godhead was higher and sweeter. The 4 Kumaras then prayed to the eternal form of the Lord that they did not mind being born in any condition as long as they could hear and chant the glories of the Lord. A verse from chapter 15 is text 43. Tashyaravinda nayanasya padaravinda kinjalka misha tulsi markanda maya antargatasva vavarina chakrate sanskobam aksara jusam apichtatambo. Translation. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead entered the nostrils of those sages, they experienced a change both in body and in mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. Chapter 16. Jaya and Vijaya cursed by the sages. Brahma continued to describe the Lord's words to the Kumaras, which approved of their curse by the gatekeepers and apologized for the disrespect of his servant. The Lord then requests the Kumaras to allow the servants to soon return to Vaikuntha. The 4 Kumaras spoke, glorifying the Lord's words as meant to teach others to protect religious principles. They spoke of the Lord's affection for the pure devotees and expressed their understanding that they had cursed 2 faultless persons. The Lord replied that the punishment awarded to his servants was in fact ordained by him, and that they would soon return to him due to their intensely thinking of him in anger while within the material world. The sages, delighted to have seen the Lord and having learned of the nature of obeisances of the Vaishnavas, then left Vaikuntha. Brahma then explained to the demigods that these 2 doorkeepers from Vaikuntha were within the womb of Diti and are the cause of the darkness. Nothing can be done to stop them, as it is the Lord's desire, explained Brahma. He alone will come to our rescue. A verse from chapter 16 is text 6. Yashyam ritama yasha shravanavagalam sadya punati jagat asvapachad vaikuntha soham bhavavya upalada shruti kurtis shidam svabahum apiva praktikula ritim. Translation. Anyone in the entire world, even down to the Chandala, who lives by cooking and eating the flesh of the dog, is immediately purified if he takes the path of hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. Now you have realized me without doubt. Therefore, I will not hesitate to lop off my own arm if his conduct is found hostile to you.